Imagine being born into a world where you are denied not only freedom, but even the knowledge of your own age. A world where reading and writing are considered dangerous skills for someone like you. This was the reality for Frederick Douglass, a man who defied all odds to escape the chains of slavery and become one of the most powerful voices for abolition in American history. In this audiobook summary of Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, we will explore his harrowing yet inspiring journey. By the end, you will understand not only the brutal realities of slavery, but also the unbreakable power of the human spirit. Stay with us as we uncover lessons of resilience, justice, and the transformative power of knowledge. Part 1. The Cruel Foundations of Slavery. Frederick Douglass begins his narrative with a painful truth. He does not know his exact birth date, a common practice in slavery to strip away personal identity. Born in Tuckahoe, Maryland, Douglass recalls his separation from his mother, Harriet Bailey, who could only visit him under the cover of night. Her death, when he was still a child, is a quiet tragedy, emblematic of the system's cruelty. Even more haunting is his first encounter with the horrors of slavery, the brutal beating of his Aunt Hester at the hands of their overseer, Captain Anthony. The screams, the blood, the absolute powerlessness. These moments define his earliest memories. Through these chapters, Douglass lays bare the emotional and psychological toll of slavery, preparing the listener for the deeper injustices to come. His descriptions are vivid and unrelenting, forcing us to confront the unimaginable suffering inflicted on those in bondage. This early exposure to cruelty shapes his understanding of the oppressive system, planting the seeds of resistance within him. Part 2. The Mechanism of Oppression. On Colonel Lloyd's plantation, Douglass witnesses the extreme wealth of his enslaver, contrasted sharply with the suffering of the enslaved people. The horses receive better care than the men and women forced to labor for their master. The overseers, particularly the ruthless Mr. Gore, are figures of terror, enforcing submission with brutal efficiency. One harrowing moment stands out. An enslaved man, Demby, is shot and killed for refusing to be whipped. The killing is met with no consequence, further proving that in the slaveholding South, the life of a black person held no value in the eyes of the law. This section of the narrative forces us to confront the question: how does a society justify such cruelty, and how does one find the courage to resist? Douglass illustrates how fear and violence are deliberately used as tools to maintain control, ensuring obedience through terror. Yet even within this bleak system, we see the early embers of defiance among those who dream of something more. Part 3. The First Taste of Freedom. Literacy. As a young boy, Douglass is sent to Baltimore, a turn of fate that changes his life forever. Here he meets Sophia Auld, who at first treats him with kindness and even begins to teach him to read. But when her husband, Hugh Auld, discovers this, he forbids it, declaring that literacy will ruin Douglass, making him unfit for slavery. This moment is a revelation. If knowledge is dangerous, then it must also be powerful. Douglass secretly continues his education, trading bread for lessons with local boys. With every new word, he inches closer to his own liberation. This section highlights the idea that education is the key to self-empowerment, a truth that resonates far beyond Douglass's time. As he learns to read, he also begins to see through the lies of the enslavers, understanding the full extent of their control. He recognizes that keeping slaves ignorant is a deliberate strategy to maintain power, making his pursuit of knowledge an act of rebellion. Part 4. The Growing Awareness of Injustice. Douglass's intellectual awakening fuels his growing dissatisfaction with slavery. He reads The Columbian Orator, a book that deepens his understanding of human rights and justice. However, knowledge also brings pain. He now fully comprehends the scale of the injustice he faces. When his master died, Douglass was appraised like livestock and sent back to the plantation. He experiences firsthand how slavery separates families without a second thought. These chapters emphasize an essential truth. Knowing one's oppression is the first step to fighting it. The deeper his understanding grows, the stronger his desire for freedom becomes. However, knowledge alone is not enough. He must find the strength to act. This period of his life is marked by a painful internal struggle as he balances his growing defiance with the brutal reality that any attempt at resistance could cost him his life. Part 5. The Battle with Covey, a fight for dignity and escape to freedom. Douglass is placed under the control of Edward Covey, known as the slave breaker. The beatings are relentless, the conditions inhumane. Douglass is nearly broken, but then, a defining moment, he fights back. In a physical battle with Covey, he refused to be beaten. Covey never touches him again. This fight is more than just survival, it's a reclaiming of dignity. Douglass later writes, "You have seen how a man was made a slave. You shall see how a slave was made a man." The lesson here? Resistance, even in its smallest forms, can be the beginning of true liberation. His determination only strengthens. He finally makes a daring escape to the north, though he withholds the details to protect others who might follow. In freedom, he finds not only safety, but also purpose. He dedicates his life to abolition, proving that the fight was never just for himself. It was for all those still in bondage. Conclusion. This journey from ignorance to knowledge, from enslavement to freedom, from silence to voice, is the essence of Douglass's narrative. His story challenges us to reflect on what injustices exist today and how we use knowledge for change. Frederick Douglass's legacy is a reminder that knowledge is power and courage is the key to change. If his story moved you, consider sharing this audiobook summary with others. Read more, learn more, and never stop questioning systems of oppression. Thank you for listening, and if you found value in this, subscribe for more insightful explorations of history's most powerful voices.